Hello, everyone. Welcome to the lesson. We're doing more beginner materials, and today we're jumping into a huge topic. So much that I worry we might not have time to get to it all, but we're going to give it a try. We are talking about time, time expressions, specifically three of them. And as we go through, feel free to ask questions if you have any. We are using the Renshu lesson that is underneath resources and then Japanese lessons. So you can go back and check this at any time if you need to. And yeah, let's jump in. Now, this is not the first time we've talked about time. Just as a quick review before I push next, what's the particle that we've used to discuss time up until now? Like if you said, I wake up at 8 o'clock, where the crow attacked me, as I was talking about before the event started. The crow attacked me at 7:45. Yes, we use ni. And ni is used to mark a specific time. It's often numeric, you know, at 6 o'clock or on the 14th of June. And we use ni. Now, that obviously is using a time element in the sense that we're talking about a word you usually use for time. 8 o'clock, Tuesday, this week on Tuesday, or the 14th. But as you know, there's so many different ways that we can talk about time, and we're going to jump into the more complex ones today. So here's a quick example using the ni that we had before. Ichiji ni hiru gohan o tabemasu. I eat lunch at 1 o'clock. Now, that's a bit simple. Let's see if we can branch that out a bit. We're going to talk about three different ones today. Hopefully, if we have time. Mae ni, atode, and toki. The first two, we're doing the hard ones first. The first two will be the ones that might stretch your brain out just a little bit and make you think, that's not the way we do it in English, or it feels a bit different. But don't worry. You don't need to be at 100% comprehension at the end of this lesson. You just need to say, I get this a little bit more than I did before. So we're going to talk about mae ni first. Now, of course, you can probably guess because you've probably heard the word mae. It means before. So we're going to be talking about action and affixing it to some other action. This is the first time we've done this. Now, there are ways that we can use nouns with this. So let me show you the two general patterns. And then on the screen, we've got testo no mae ni and iku mae ni. Now, whenever you have a noun, you're going to have that no come after it. You can't just say testo mae, except in very specific situations. But generally, it's going to be noun no mae. And on top of that, these words, you can't just throw anything, in front of no mae and have it refer to a time. If you're dealing with a noun, it's probably going to be some word that represents an action or an event. So you can think of it as, it says testo no mae, before the test. You could think of it also before the time of the test. So you could talk about before the party, before TV. The way I might tell my children, let's get a bath before TV. And we're not saying, hey guys, jump into the bathtub, which happens to be in front of the TV. I'm referring to TV as an action, as an event, watching TV. And before that, we're going to do something. Now, the second one that we have here, now this is the more complex one, is when you have a verb before it. And the very simple example we have is iku mae ni. Now, this by itself is not going to make a lot of sense, but this is the first time we've taken a verb and put it somewhere else in the sentence that wasn't at the end. And if you are more focused on the grammar and you like to think of things in grammar elements, we are starting to have a second clause in our sentence. A clause is a subject action. And, in Japanese, the action usually isn't there. Or, the subject isn't present. But we're now getting into the situation where we have multiple actions being referenced in the same sentence. So let's look at some actual examples and try and get this concept, solidified into our head. So first, we're going to do the easy one. Before I talk about these sentences, take a look what I'm typing into the channel. This is the framework that I'd like you to if you don't remember anything else, remember this. Be no mai ni a. Or if it's a verb, you're not going to have the no. Be mai ni a. Now, you might be able to figure out that the reason I'm using A and B is to refer to which one comes first. This is important. When we're using this one, the first action is coming later on in the sentence. The first action is coming later in the sentence. The action that comes afterwards is coming before the mai, because it's before. Now, some of you might say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Some of you might say, wait, that's not how I do it in English. Because in English, we actually have two different ways of saying it. This first sentence is talking about, I practiced a lot before the test. And so you could say this, I'm typing this out. You could also say this. I practiced a lot before the test. Before the test, I practiced a lot. Now, I don't need you to tell me, but my guess is that you probably use that first English more than the second. Now, you probably use both, but I'm guessing the first one is more common. That we put, I practiced a lot before the test. However, in Japanese, you can only do the second version. You can only get that before chunk at the beginning of the sentence. You can't flip them around. So with this, as I noticed before, be no mai ni a, whatever's coming first is going to be at the end of the sentence. It's also useful to think that whatever comes at the end of the sentence, that's the main thing. That's the thing that you're focusing on. So here we're talking about practicing, or studying. And whoever's speaking, that's what they want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the test. They want to talk about the fact that they practiced, I guess it's maybe Japanese. They practiced Japanese a lot. When did they practice it? Before the test. But that whole before the test thing is just added information onto the main action, which is the practicing. And to the person asking, don't worry, if your name doesn't pop up there, it will pop up. Kaochan goes kind of through cycles, so don't worry about it. As long as you're in the channel, the voice chat channel, which now that I see, you might not be in there. So someone might want to tell them, because I am here in the voice chat and I'm teaching. It only gets picked up if they're in the voice chat. Anyway, so the main action always comes at the end, and we're using mai ni to describe when it happens. This thing happened before the test. Now, let's take a look at the second one. This one is much more important, and this one's much more new to us. So if you look in the second one, we actually have two different actions going on. We have two different actions. One of them is closing the door, or rather a request to please close the door. And the second one is to go somewhere. And probably frustratingly, for some of you, you're thinking there's no subject in any of this. There's two actions and there's no subject. What's going on? Now, you should be able to infer that the subject is you being the listener, because someone is telling you to do something. They're telling you, please close the door before you go. Please close the door before you go. Which one is the main action? It's the one that's later on, closing the door. When do they want you to close the door? Before. So I'm going to give you a few more examples here before we jump on to the next one. This one is, there are no subjects here, but you're free to add them. So let me give you an example. Let's see. I'm going to say, I could say something like this. Oh, and welcome. It looks like the person who was looking to get in was able to do so. So this is actually what I did today. 私はイベントをする前に練習をチェックします。I said check. That's not check. Check sounds like I'm zipping up my zipper. So 練習をチェックします。So every time before I do an event, I will, check Renshu to make sure I'm okay, this is the lesson we're doing today. This is what, I need to do, need to teach. And so you're free to put, something there. And additionally, you are free to make that first clause, that one that's got the maini in front of it or after it, you can make that as complex as you want. It doesn't have to be a single word like ikumai. I could say something like this. If you give me just 1 second so I can finish typing it out. Tomodachi to Nihon ni iku mae ni Nihongo o benkyou shitai desu. So before I go to Japan with my friends, I want to study Japanese. There's no need to keep anything simple. Now, let's practice this a little bit. Let's practice this just a little bit, and then I'm going to give you a bit more information on this. So here's what I'd like you to do. And again, like I said before, no one has to do this. This is totally up to whoever wants to try typing into the chat. Feel free to try it. And if you make a mistake, I will gently correct, your Japanese, but no one gets called out. It's not like, oh, look at this person, they made this huge mistake, everyone stare at them. There's none of that. So I hope you take this as an opportunity to practice this new Japanese and, hopefully get a little bit better. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Let's keep it simple. Today, presumably, you're all going to sleep today at some point, right? I hope you do. I hope you don't stay up all night. That's not particularly great. So we're all going to start off this sentence with neru mae ni, before I sleep. And I just want you to tell me what's something you're going to do before you go to sleep. Neru mae ni nani nani. And because this is a beginner event, please keep your answers in hiragana, or if you want to type it out in kanji, please do what the person above me did and add the hiragana as well. That way, those that have not started studying kanji yet, they can take advantage of this. They can enjoy it. And just in case you don't know, if you don't have Japanese installed on your computer, but you want to try this, you can do this. You can type it out like this. Neru mae ni terebi o mimasu. That's fine. We're not picky with how you type. We just want you to type, to try it out. So I'll give everyone a couple of minutes. So please feel free to, jump in if you want to. And once there are a few answers that come up, I'll start reading some of them. So, neru mae ni bangohan o tabemasu. Eating dinner is good. Someone else is brushing their teeth. And there's actually two ways to talk about brushing your teeth. There's one, I'd say this is probably the more common way to say it. You can say ha o migakimasu, like the person earlier did. But probably the more common way of saying it is this way. Hamigaki o shimasu. So instead of the first one, you're literally saying, I will brush my teeth. The second one, if you had to kind of force a translation, it's a bit closer to, I will do teeth brushing, which sounds strange in English, but it's the more common way to say it in Japanese. And to feed an animal, I hope you're not feeding a crow. If you feed an animal, you probably say something like, esa is often used for like pet food. And you can say agemasu. You can also say, if you're going with the strict up down, you can say yarimasu. But a lot of when you learn yaru, ageru and yaru, you often see it used for animals and for plants. Like I'll give the plant some water, or I'll give the animal some food. And because they're below us, I can use yaru. However, a lot of people will still use ageru, especially with pets, because as many of you know, and probably feel yourself, humans often treat pets at the same level as they do other people. And so they don't use the yaru form, which is more downward. They use ageru. And if you have a sentence you want to say and you don't know how to say it, you are totally in the right place to say, how do I say this? No one will laugh at you, and I can guarantee there's at least 5 or 6 people in here that will be more than happy to help you. So we've got people reading manga. We've got people probably feeding a pet, watching anime. 2 people reading manga. Someone else is saying they want to read a book. They're not sure if they're going to or not, but they want to. Okay. These are all great sentences. If you are still typing out your sentence, please finish. I never want someone to say, oh, I'm this close, but I'm going to stop because Michael is continuing. I always want you to be able to keep going. Now, you're super close. Neko ni, because ni, if it's ga, then it's the cat that's feeding something else, which would be great. That would be awesome. But the cat is receiving the action, they're receiving the food, so it would be neko ni. Okay, time to bend your brain a little bit. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a translation question, and please try and answer it. If you want to. If you do so, please use spoilers. Spoilers are if you use these marks, around your message, except you don't put the space. It's just pipe, and then your message pipe, and it hides it. Because I want as many people as possible to try this without having the answer spoiled for them. Okay, here's the question. Please translate this. I'm going to use someone else. In fact, let me copy what the other person said. Someone else put in a perfectly good sentence here. Neru mae ni manga o yomimasu. Before I go to sleep, I will read manga. Now, translate this, please, or give it a shot. Yesterday, I read manga before I went to sleep. The only difference here is all the stuff is taking place in the past. And of course, I threw yesterday on the front to make that clear. But the rest of the sentence should be exactly the same in terms of like content. before sleeping happened, manga. So give this a try. Please try translating this. Or don't, if you don't want to, or you don't have an idea, don't need to. Feel free to check out the other people's answers and think, that sounds right, or I'm not sure about that. Now, this is a tricky question, otherwise I wouldn't ask it. So I fully expect half of you to get it wrong, which is good. Getting something wrong is an excellent way to lodge that memory in your head, so you have that right answer that comes up, and then that's the thing that sticks. Although I'm somewhat, and this is in a good way, I'm somewhat disappointed that no one's making the mistake I thought they'd make. You can't hear this, but I can hear the crow screaming from the park nearby. It reaches inside my window. Okay. So, no one made the mistake, which is everyone did this. Now I'm going to just drop off the kino part, the yesterday part. But basically, this is what everyone wrote. Everyone wrote this, more or less. Neru mae ni manga o yomimashita. Now, I'm going to retype real fast, hopefully before someone else types something. There we go. What's the difference between these two sentences? Like, look at them. Oh, except for the yesterday. There's something that I want you to see because I want it to be stuck in your head. Ignore the yesterday part, but what is different between these two sentences that might make you think, oh, this is a bit confusing? I'll give you a hint. Look at the verbs. Look at the two verbs in each sentence. Neru, yomimashita, as well as read, went, or slept, if you want to say, before I slept. Now, it's not the swapping part. Now, you're right. We did talk about the swapping, but there's something else. There's something else that's different. I'll give you all a few more seconds to try and guess before I point it out. Okay. So I now realize that I probably should have written it this way. I said went to sleep, but I probably should have typed something like slept. I didn't want you to think, oh, where's the went or whatever. That's not what I was getting at. The important thing is, oh, the last person said it exactly. Neru. Look at Neru. We are talking about two actions that happened in the past. Whoever says this, they've already read the manga, they've already slept. They read and they slept. However, in the Japanese, sleeping, neru, is not in the past tense. What's going on? Now, there's two ways to understand this. I'm going to give you the easy way. I'm going to give you the real way. The easy way is that when you have a verb plus mae ni, the verb is always in the non-past form. So what does that mean? You cannot say this. You cannot say neta mae ni. Even though this sounds really good to you as an English speaker and possibly speakers of other languages. Because you say, before I went to sleep. I went. It's done. Before I slept. It should be neta, right? No. Whenever you have mae ni, the verb that comes before it is always going to be in the present, or more technically, the non-past tense. And thank you for everyone that's helping me with the emoji. So why? Why is it actually happening this way? There is a reason. Now I'm going to tell you the real reason. But if you don't understand this real reason, at least you have that short rule that helps you out. So here is what's actually going on. Here's what's actually going on. when you use this, when you say, and let me type it out one more time, neru mai ni. The reason neru mai ni is not past tense is the focus is on the main action. The main action is the reading, right? So let me give you a quick little timeline. I think we can all agree that this is what's happening in the sentence. Which one happens first? You read manga first and then you go to sleep, right? You read manga first and then you go to sleep. So look at the read manga. Put yourself on that timeline at read manga. Has the sleeping happened yet? If you are standing on the point of reading manga, has the sleeping happened yet? No. You're reading manga first. That's why it's not past tense. Is we look at the main action. Exactly. The main action is the only thing that really has tense in a sense. Like an absolute tense. The main action is reading manga. And if you're looking at reading manga, has the sleeping happened yet? No, it's not in past tense. Put a more technical way, it's relative to the main action. Relative to reading manga, has this other action happened yet? No. So it's relative time, not absolute time. Now, this by itself might not be the clearest, but when we look at our little partner here, atode, you're going to see them linked together and you're going to say, oh, I see, mai ni, you do it this way, atode, you do it this other way. So let's jump ahead, or not jump ahead, let's continue. And let's look at atode and see how that one works. And then when we look at these two things together, it's going to make a lot more sense. Atode is formed in almost exactly the same way. With nouns, you've got the noun and then the no. So for example, on the screen, we've got shigoto no atode, after work. And just like before, these nouns are going to represent, events, points in time. After work, after my homework, after TV, after the crow attack. It's something, it's a point in time. You can take that noun and you can drop it on a timeline and say that happened then. With the verbs, it's the same setup. However, look here, it's a past tense verb plus atode. The past tense verb plus atode. With mai ni, it's non-past. With atode, it is always past. So let's take a look at some examples. The first one should be the easier of the two. And no, it's not usually written in hiragana. I'm actually not quite sure why it's written that way here in the lesson, but you can write it like this, no problem. In fact, that would be the more common way of seeing it. I'm going to make a note to check in on that, as to why Renshu is showing it that way. But kanji is just fine. Totally fine. So, just for comparison, let me show you, before we had this, be mai ni a, whereas the main action comes first and then the be comes after. So it might not surprise you that with ato, the one we're doing now, let me add the hiragana real fast, it's flipped. And this one, fortunately, this is the one where you say, ah, this feels like English to me. After A, B. That's the most common way. Sometimes you'll say, I'll eat lunch after I finish my work. But I think most people, if we were able to, come up with a percentage, I think most people would say, after I finish my work, I'll eat. So here, the English and the Japanese, you say, oh, this is a good fit. This is one of those times where the translation works in my favor. So let's take a look at the, oh, whoops, went too far. Let's take a look at that second sentence. 食べた後で宿題をした。食べた後で宿題をした。After I ate, I did my homework. After I ate, I did my homework. Just like before, you can add as much or as little stuff to that first clause as you want. You can add a subject, you can add other times. You can add who you're doing it with, what you're doing it with, all that's fine. So we're going to do that whole timeline thing. We're going to look at the tenses of the verbs. But before that, actually, I'm going to flip it before we do our example. Let's talk about that first. Now, before we noted that before maini, it's always that non-past verb. With atode, it's always past. So let me give you a couple of examples. I'm going to use the example that's on the screen. So here's the one that's on the screen, just retyped. 昨日は, oh, and I added yesterday, sorry. 昨日は食べた後で宿題をした. Yesterday, after I ate, I did my homework. This one is a nice match for the English because in English you say, after I ate, I did. Ate and did, past. You got past tense in both sentences, life is good. However, you could also say this. After I eat, I'll do my homework. Now we've got that disconnect again. We say, wait, in English, we say after I eat. We don't say after I ate, I'll do my homework. We say after I eat, I'll do my homework. However, in the Japanese, we say after I ate, 食べた後で. Again, why is this happening? As some of you have probably made the connection in your head. So which one's happening first? Here's our timeline. Eating's first, homework's after that. Which one is the main action? It's the one that comes at the end. It's the doing the homework. If you stand on that timeline, if you stand on the homework, don't stand on your homework. If you stand on the homework and you look at that, has the eating finished? Has the eating been done? Yes. It's been done, so we refer to it in the past tense. So whatever that clause is, whatever's coming at the beginning of the sentence, it's always relative to that main action that's happening afterwards. You look at the main action, and that tells you if everything in the sentence has been done or not done. That atode, or that maini, is used relative to that main action. So I do want to say again that some of you are thinking, oh, I'm the only one that doesn't get this. Everyone else seems to get it. I'm terrible. That's not true. These are tricky concepts. You might understand it. Like, I understand what Michael's saying, but when I actually try and use it, it kind of gets messed up in my head. It takes time for this to not only get comprehended, but actually become usable to you. So please do not worry. Please don't worry, you'll get there. And in order to get there, let's practice a little bit. So let's try this. I'm giving you half of the sentence. 日本に行った後で After I go to Japan, so as in you travel to Japan, you are now in Japan. What are you going to do? Now, I'll give you two choices. If you've been to Japan before and you would like to tell us about something you've already done, feel free to do so and use the past tense. Say, after I went to Japan, I had ramen. Ramen no tabeta. That's fine. If you haven't gone to Japan, but you're thinking about it, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 1 year, maybe in 10 years, tell me what you will do or what you want to do, what you think you'll do. Now, I need to step away for just a minute, but when I get back, I hope to see a whole bunch of sentences about what you're thinking about doing in Japan or what you did in Japan after you get there. I am back. So, curious to see how people are doing. So we've got some people saying there's a lot of eating. One person is coming to my aid and catching the crow. I wish you the best with that. Other people are talking about eating sushi, walking around or walking to Shibuya. Should be nice. Eating Japanese food. And to the person asking about why is Nihon translated as Nippon, that actually is a way of reading that. It's an older way that's often used to drum up more of a nationalistic feel. And Kalchan, at least the Kalchan here in Discord, uses this other text parser, and it just parrots out what what comes out of there. So it's not, no text parser is 100% perfect. Okay. Thank you, everyone that typed out sentences. Now, you might notice that we have 12 minutes left in the lesson, and our little green bar at the bottom shows that we're not even halfway done. But I wanted to get, a much deeper dive into, into the Atode and my name. But let's get done what we can get done. Okay? Let's continue. And we're switching over to Toki. Toki meaning time. And this one has it's a more generic usage of time, which allows it to have a lot of different usages, a variety of usages. So let's jump into them. it is so close to the word when that it's one of the few words I say you can actually probably translate it as when. Now, before we were talking about just nouns and verbs. Before maini, we'd say, before the test or before I take the test, before I go to sleep. However, there's a lot more that you can do with toki, a lot more flexibility. So let's take a look at everything that we have. And we're going to jump through some examples. We might not have a chance to do some, actual practice here, but we'll see what we can do. So here's a few examples. You can see a noun here, kodomo no toki. And remember, the no is just being used to add specificity to something. So if you just say toki, it's like time. Well, that could be anything. What time? Child time. Now, it doesn't actually mean child time. It means it's closer to when I was a child. Kodomo no toki, when I was a child. Samui toki, when it's cold. You can see that you can just throw an adjective on the front of here, and that works as well. You can, I don't think it's listed here, but let me just toss it out real fast. It's not. With adjectives, so if you've got the e adjective, you just slap it on there. So if we say atsui toki, we say when it's hot. However, if you want to use the na adjectives, you do need that na. Because toki is technically a noun. And if you have, a na adjective in front of a noun, you need that na. So genki na toki would be like when I'm good. When I'm energetic, when I'm in a generic, I'm in a good state. When I've got energy, I like to exercise, for example. Now, with the verbs that come in front of it, now mai ni and atode, those were more specific. You needed mai ni needed the non-past verb, atode needed the past tense. However, here, and we're going to see some different examples, you can use either. You can use the non-past. You could say yomu toki. You can also use past tense. Asonda toki. So this one's closer to yomu toki is when I read. So you might say something like, when I read, I like to drink coffee. When I played, asonda toki, when I played in the park, the crow attacked me. And maybe they can hear me saying crow because I can hear the crows cawing just as I said that. You put the no in there if it's a noun in front of the noun. It's in front of toki. So it looks like this. Noun, no, toki. Now, let's look at some examples. Now, you can note, you can see in the first two sentences, I'm going to highlight it, or at least mouse over it, there's a ni afterwards. Gakusei no toki ni, atsui toki ni. The third one, kono hon no yomu toki. Hey, there's no ni. It's not required. It's kind of a stylistic choice. You'll see both, and you can choose which one you want to use. Now, let's look at each of these. Gakusei no toki ni gakkou de hiru gohan o tabeta. When I was a student, and quick question, if I say gakusei no toki, actually, let me drop that. When I was a student, I ate lunch at school. When I was a student, I ate lunch at school. The second one, we're using an adjective here. Atsui toki ni umi de oyogitai. When it's hot, I want to swim at the beach. And note, I'm not mistranslating it. Umi, you usually read it as ocean or sea when you learn it. But when people say umi in a sentence, it can also mean the beach. So if you ever say, umi ni ikimashou, you're not saying, let's go to the ocean and jump into the ocean and separate ourselves from the coast. You usually mean, let's go to the beach. there is a word, kaigan, that refers to the beach, specifically the beach, but you will refer to that if you need to talk about that the strip of sand or rocks or whatever, and not the water that's in front of it. But as a general location, a destination, we use umi to refer to the beach as well. This last one, この本を読むとき、ノート書いてください. This sounds like something a teacher might say. When you read this book, please take notes. Now, let's keep going. We've got some more examples. Now here, we're using some different tenses with our verbs. And this one actually is really, I didn't do this on purpose. This is very close to what we used with after before. 日本に行ったとき、桜の花を見ました. When I went to Japan, so it's talking about something that's in the past. When I went to Japan, I saw the cherry blossoms. Now look at this one. This is one that we haven't dealt with today. This one's actually using the progressive, that ing form, the progressive tense. So this is, when you're doing something. 遊んでいるときに気をつけてください. When you're playing, please be careful. And again, this might be a bit frustrating to you because everyone, it's not just you, everyone starts, when they start learning, they translate in their heads, from English to Japanese or Spanish to Japanese, whatever your native language happens to be. And so you might be inclined to think, in English, I'd probably say, please be careful when you're playing. So I need to line up my Japanese that way. But whenever you're marking the time during which something happens, after which something happens, before which something happens, you need to put that time thing at the front. Time, with very few exceptions, time goes at the top of the sentence. And this is no exception. Now, there's something that you might have inferred from what we've done so far. But let me go ahead and spell it out for you. Whenever we have these verbs in front of toki, in front of ato, in front of mai, you'll probably notice that they've all been the casual form or the short form. So what does that mean? Let's look at this this last sentence. It's on the page. 遊んでるとき. You cannot do this. You cannot say 遊んでますとき. That does not work. You must use the casual form. Now, what's important to note is that is not making your sentence casual or not casual. These secondary clauses, these time clauses, don't affect the casualness of the sentence one way or the other. Whether a sentence is casual or polite or formal, it all depends on what's at the end. It all depends on what's on the end. So this first sentence, the first one's on the screen, 日本に行ったとき, that 行った is always going to be 行った. It will never be 行きました. However, like it shows you on the screen, it might be 見ました if you're going for a more polite sentence. It might also be 見た if you're speaking more casually. That's the only spot in which the casualness or the politeness of the sentence will change. Now, we unfortunately don't have time to practice this. We might try and get some practice in next time, but there is one more thing that I'd like to show you. So we have it here, and it's slightly more advanced, but the formation fits, and so we're gonna jump into it. And there's this character that it's one of the first kanji that people usually learn, And there's actually two ways to read it. There's two ways to read it. Frustratingly, we're going to only talk about one of those ways today. By itself, it can be naka, as in inside of. But when referring to time, you can actually talk about chu and ju. Today, we're going to focus on the latter, ju. And it is used, and the examples will help you see it a bit more clearly. Give me just 1 second. This one is talking about, it emphasizes the length for which you do something. So let me give you a quick comparison. Let me jump back real fast. Okay, let's look at this top sentence. 日本に行った時、桜の花を見ました. So with this one, you'll notice that with, oh, and I see my headphones are off, but I see someone with a live mic. If you can turn your mic off, please, that'd be great. Otherwise, thank you. So, look at this first sentence. 日本に行った時、桜の花を見ました. So here, it's when I went to Japan, I saw the flowers. Now, this sentence says nothing to suggest how long or for what duration you saw the flowers. It could have been a minute, a second, could have been a few hours. We don't know. Toki does nothing to describe how long you do something. This ju, however, does exactly that. And it's very convenient. Now, this is one that I would recommend, and the more and more difficult grammar we get into, the more and more you'll hear me say this, which is some grammar I feel like you can pick up and use immediately. You can say, I get this, I understand it, I can throw whatever word in front of it I want, as long as it follows the rules, I can start doing this. Ju, however, is not one of those. This is one where you're going to start to see it, and hopefully this will let you understand it when you see it. However, you cannot put just any old word in front of ju. You'll start to see that there are subsets of words that you see more commonly than not. And so it's one of those ones where I say, don't use it until you've seen it enough to where you feel comfortable saying, oh, this is a word that I often see in front of it. In fact, I want to go as far as saying, yes, for this first one, ichinichiju, it's actually a single word in Renshu's dictionary, because it is easier to think of it as a single concept. So if you say ichinichi is a day, you know, it's a length of time. It's 1 day. Ichinichiju nemashita. If you say this, you were talking about sleeping. How much did you sleep for the entire day? It's like all of that thing that came before it. Compare that to this. Let's say this timeline I just typed out, let's say that refers to an entire day, 24 hours of time. And during that period, I slept for some of it. You know, there's almost like a timeline, there's a point on that timeline. I say this time, I slept then. With ju, however, it looks more like this. Whatever the period of time is it's referring to, that action went on the entire time. So for the entire day, I was asleep. It's focusing on that length. And throughout is a good way to think of it. Throughout or for the entire. And like before, the ni is in there. And if I'm not sure if we'll have time, but I will tell you, chu and ju, it's sometimes you know because you see a word like this. For example, ichinichi chu, you probably wouldn't say. It's one of those ones where you recognize the word and you say, oh, it's got to be this one or that one. So it's kind of you learn it and then you just get a feel for it, unfortunately. They do mean completely different things, but it's unfortunately outside the scope of today's lesson and we're short on time. So I can't talk about it too much more. There is one more way you can use it, which is on the screen. And this is often used with requests. And so if you say 今週中に仕事を終わってください, then you can refer to, during this week, throughout this week, I want you to finish this. Similarly, one more example. This is our last one for today. 日本中に雨が降りました. Now this one's a bit different. We're not talking about time anymore. We're talking about a different span. This is location. So it doesn't really fit into time, but I wanted to throw it out there for you. 日本中に雨が降りました. So if we have not a timeline, but you have a map of Japan, we're not talking about, oh, it rained at this point, or it rained in this prefecture. It rained everywhere throughout the entire country. So this last one, the Ju that we went over, again, I wouldn't say start using it. It is a slightly trickier one, but you will start seeing it pop up. And now when you see it, you'll get a feel for, oh, that's what it's referring to. I apologize that we weren't able to slow down a bit more on those back couple of topics, but we spent so much time on the first two that we need to speed things up. If you need to refer to this lesson again, it will be available here in the Discord, as well as on the Renshu, and I'll show you real fast. If you're in Renshu and you go to resources and Japanese lessons, all the ones that have videos on them, it's just these little video icons. And later today, it will pop up right here next to time expressions, and you will be able to check this out whenever you want. So I hope this helped you somewhat. Again, never expect full comprehension. That's an unreasonable expectation of yourself, and it makes you just feel bad when you don't reach that. Every step in learning is to get you closer to that 100%. It might be that you get 99% of the way there after 1 hour, you might get 10%, but you're closer than you were before. And that's what you should focus on. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will hopefully see you again next week. Bye.